Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone. Today we are going to explain about our material that's talk about testing, assessment, and evaluating. I'm Asmini Handayan Siregar. As a first speaker today, I will explain about testing and assessment. Now let we start it. Testing. Testing is finding out how well something works in terms of human being, or testing tell what level of knowledge or skill have been achieved. A test used to examine someone's knowledge of something to determine what that person know and what that person have learned. Jadi, tes itu sendiri adalah pemberian tugas kepada peserta didik ataupun rangkaian tugas yang diberikan kepada peserta didik dalam bentuk soal ataupun perintah, di mana hal tersebut harus dikerjakan oleh peserta didik. Dan hasil dari pekerjaan peserta didik ini akan dijadikan sebagai sarana untuk menarik kesimpulan tertentu. There are four the functions of test. The first, testing assesses what student have learned. Jadi testing itu sendiri bisa dari testing itu sendiri kita bisa menilai apa sebenarnya yang telah siswa pelajari. Misalnya seperti kita di semester sebelumnya, bisa jadi kan kita mempelajari banyak mata kuliah, dan di semester ini seorang dosen mengadakan uji coba terhadap satu materi, misalnya fokusnya ke grammar. Jadi di grammar itu sendiri kita telah belajar apa, seperti itu. Jadi dari tes ini kita bisa mengetahui ataupun kita bisa menilai apa sebenarnya yang telah peserta didik itu pelajari sebelumnya. And testing identifies student strengths and weakness. So when the teachers use pretest at the beginning of the units to find out what students already know and figure out where to focus the lessons. Jadi misalnya setelah diberikan tes, seorang guru itu bisa mengetahui apa keunggulan dan kelemahan seorang siswa tersebut. Jadi tes itu sendiri bisa diadakan ataupun bisa diberikan di awal pembelajaran untuk menguji kemampuan siswa tersebut. And testing measures effectiveness, so it means to know how well something works. And the last, testing can provide college credit. It means provide students with the opportunity to earn college credit after successfully completing a course or passing the exam with the high marks. Jadi dengan tes ini sendiri kita bisa memasuki berbagai macam perguruan tinggi. Kan dalam perguruan tinggi tersebut ada beberapa mungkin kriteria ataupun ada beberapa syarat yang harus dipenuhi. Jadi seperti kita saat kita memasuki perguruan tinggi, kita melalui mungkin some of us doing the test before sebelum kita masuk sebelum kita diterima di Yayan. Jadi tes itu sendiri berfungsi sebagai tes itu sendiri dapat provide college credit untuk para siswa. Sudah karakteristik of test. There are 5 characteristic of test. First, reliable. The second, valid. The third, practical. The fourth, discriminate. And last, authentic. Now, I'm going to explain reliable first. Reliable is consistent, dependence, and trust. It means the result of reliable test should be dependable and not be different if the test due on the different day. There are 3 aspects of reliable tests. The first is equivalence, the second is stability, and the last is internal consistency or homogeneity. The second, valid. Valid, it means the content of validity is the extent to which the selection of tasks in a test is representative. The test is representative of the large set of the tasks of which the test is assumed to the sample. One of the important types of validity for teacher is the content validity, which is mean the test assesses the course content and outcomes using format familiar to the students. Jadi valid itu di tes itu sendiri, pertanyaan-pertanyaan itu haruslah representatif atau mewakili apa saja pelajaran yang telah dipelajari. Dan di sini kita bisa melihat pertanyaan yang representatif itu bisa kita buat melalui apa saja materi-materi yang dipelajari sebelum-sebelumnya, seperti itu. And that third, practical. It means that the test is developed and administered within the reliable time and available resources. So a practical test should be easy to design, easy to administer, easy to mark, and easy to interpret its result. And the fourth is discriminate. All assessment is based on the comparison either between one student into another student and one group to another group. And important features of a good test is its capacity to discriminate among the performance of different students or the some students at the different point in time. And the last, authentic. Authentic it means language response that students give in the test is appropriate to the language of communication. The test item should be related to the usage of the target language. So that's about testing. I'd like to explain the second material that's talk about assessment. Assessment is systematic process of documenting and using empirical data on the knowledge, skill, attitude, and beliefs. By taking the assessment, teacher try to improve student learning. And assessment involves the use of experimental data on students' learning to refine programs and to improve students' learning itself. Jadi dapat disimpulkan bahwa assessment itu sendiri adalah suatu proses untuk menentukan kuantitas dari sesuatu, di mana itu sesuatu itu sendiri bisa berarti peserta didik, strategi pembelajaran, sarana dan prasarana peserta didik, dan biasanya dalam assessment kita menggunakan yang namanya tes. Maybe some of you still confused. So, what is the difference between test and assessment? So, I'd like to explain the difference between test and assessment. A test is a product. Remember that. A test is a product that measures a particular behavior or set of objectives. And assessment is seen as a process. So the difference is if the test is a product and assessment is a process. So it means assessment seen as a process instead of a product. Jadi di mana assessment itu merupakan, dari assessment itu sendiri kan merupakan prosesnya, dan kita bisa melihat hasilnya dalam sebuah tes. Jadi itu adalah perbedaan antara tes dan assessment itu sendiri. Jadi sekarang kita beralih kepada fungsi dari assessment itu sendiri. There are some functions of assessment. First, delegating functions. It means it delegates all the activities during the evaluations, from making plans to estimating the result. All activities are closely watched. The second, making decisions. Making decisions, it means they have to decide what has to be done for improvement. And the third, screening. Screening, it means the teacher has to assess the probable incidence of the problem. So they have to do by using a simple question with the answer yes or no. The fourth is feedback or response. This process helps to validate how students mark or derive. It also identifies specific character in students' work. The fifth, instructional planning. Instructional planning is a process for teacher. It helps teacher to make a plan to target the course of study. And the last is students placement in the remedial course. It's mean uh, that if students' evaluations is below average, remedial courses should be provided of them. I think that's all from my explanation, and the next material will be explained by my friends. It's Mustafa Patli Perkasha, and that's all from me. Thank you.
Our sister Smini Andayani, who explained the materials of testing, assessment, and explanation. Okay, now I'd like to tell you guys about the characteristic of the assessment. Okay, now we have a few of the characteristic of the assessment. And what is the characteristic? First, A, validity and reliability. The validity and reliability of an assessment capture the extent to which it is relevant and credible. Critically, unless an assessment is measuring the things that are important, then it can't be effective, no matter how reliable and valid in other ways it might be. It has to be measuring something that is relevant as well as being credible. Be practical and scalable. Assessment has to be practical in the sense of it being feasible to implement. The more time-consuming, expensive, and operationally difficult is to carry out an assessment, the less like it is to be used. Within the formal education system, large number of learners need to be assessed. The more practical the assessment is, then the more scalable it is like to be. See formative and positive. While the criticism can enhance learning, it normally only does so when it's constructive. Effective assessment should also be constructive. For example, by focusing on success rather than failures. Be ethical. Clearly, it is important that every element of education, including assessment, is ethic. And last, easily reported. Finally, as the key element of assessment is to evaluate what someone has learned up to that point in time. Having a concise summary of the outcomes of the assessment is important. This facilitates comparison with their previous performance and with external standard or with other learners. Okay. Next is evaluation. Definition, function, and characteristic. What is evaluation? Evaluation is the process of providing information to meet as consideration for determining the price and service, the worth and merit of the objective are achieved, the design, implementation, and impact to help make decision, to help improve accountability and understanding of the phenomenon. There are many definition of evaluation by authors and others. So the definition is like what I said before. If you wanna ask, just ask for asking and answering section. Okay, enough for definition. Function. What is the function of evaluation? First, evaluation help in preparing instructional objective. Second, evaluation process help in assessing the learner's need. Third, evaluation help in providing feedback to the student. Fourth, evaluation help in preparing programmed materials. Five. Evaluation help in curriculum development. Evaluation help in reporting pupils' progress to parents. Evaluation data are very much useful in guidance and counseling. Evaluation helps in effective school administration. Evaluation that are helpful in school research. Okay, and the last is characteristic of evaluation. What are the characteristic of evaluation? We have a few of characteristics here. First, it involves assessment of all the teaching learning outcomes in terms of overall behavioral change, and it involves forming judgment and taking decision about the child's progress. Evaluation requires interpretation of data in a careful manner. Evaluation is a continuous. It's not confined to one particular class or stage of education. It is to be conducted continuously as the students pass from one stage to another, from one class to other, from one school to others. Evaluation is comprehensive. Evaluation includes all the means of collecting information about the student's learning. Okay, thanks for your attention. I think it's not clearly if I only explaining here. So if you have a question, just ask in the Google class. Thanks for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.